Alright, from fans, episode 8 just took us on an insane roller coaster. We got some betrayals, time travel shenanigans, and Fatima's transformation is going full-blown creepy. This is the episode we finally were looking for. The episode we finally got some answers. Even though the episode is not perfect, there's still some great answers that we need to discuss. And that is Victor's memories, because what he reveals about the boy in white is absolutely incredible. This episode is giving us history and the possibility of rewriting from Bill's history as we know it, because Julie's trip to those ruins is not just a travel tour, she is in a place where it's going to change the series. And speaking of changing, that final scene with Elgen and Fatima, pure nightmare fuel. The town is not just breaking people anymore, it's using them for something far more evil. Welcome to this video, I'm Unanswered question from the premiere, and let's begin.
They poured their hope into the roots to make the symbol, and those roots became the tree.
Yes, finally!
I've been waiting for this.
So the community in this episode is now dealing from the news of Tilly's death, a discovery made in the greenhouse. We have this multiple investigations happening in episode 8, and the show it's not just giving us one mystery, it's merging and connecting together multiple threads that all connect. Finally, Jade, finally. So while Kenny and Acosta are questioning everyone about Tilly's death, something darker is growing inside Fatima. This brings us to this investigation happening in episode 8 because it shows exactly how the town manipulates through misdirection. A much darker thread is growing right under their noses, and this episode opens with that horrifying discovery of Tilly's body. Talk about a way to start the day, but hiding Fatima in that shed is a move that's going to backfire big time. And Boyd is hiding all of this. Think about how quickly everyone jumps to suspect Sarah. Didn't she kill your dad? They say to Kenny. So remember back in season 1 when Sarah was the town's boogeyman, and season 2. Now history is repeating itself, but this time it's just a distraction. The town is not just creating paranoia, it's using Sarah's past crimes to keep everyone looking in the wrong direction. Kenny also has to question his own judgment when residents bring up his father's murder. The town or the nightmare is systematically breaking down every bond of connection these people have built. All of this creates the perfect cover. While Boyd authority breaks, even the community divides over Sarah. Elgen is able to execute whatever twisted plan the lady in the kimono has set in motion. And now in this series, the real danger is not what everyone's looking at, which connects to Boyd's action in this episode. Watching him hide Fatima in that shed, remember how he used to be all about transparency, even putting Frank in the box back in season 1. Now he's doing the exact opposite, and this tells us everything about how terrified he really is, and as well what could happen to Fatima, including the scene with Donna.
This is something that people are gonna have to blame someone for.
Boyd is not just hiding a killer, he's trying to protect his own family from whatever the town is doing with Fatima. Just like he could not save Father Catherine or Tian Chen or his wife. Now he's watching his daughter-in-law transform into something he cannot fight. But here's where it gets really interesting. That moment when Ellis says, "I'll tell them I did it." It's not about protecting Fatima anymore. It's about watching his son willing to sacrifice everything to save someone who might not be his wife anymore. Another revelation in this episode, and that is the mind-blowing moment with Julie in the caves, because it's not just about time travel. It completely changes how we understand From's rules. When Julie sees Martin and throws that rope, she's not just witnessing history. She's creating it. She's the reason Boyd survived back in episode 1 of season 2. I've been thinking about this, and what if this is only allowed by the entity? So it's like a controlled remote car when you can be inside, but someone else has the control of the car, which means it's time travel but not fully. Changing the past, changing the story. But now we were all wondering who helped Martin. Turns out it was not some mysterious stranger. It was Julie all along. The town didn't just randomly lead her to those ruins. It positioned her exactly where she needed to be to complete this loop. But here's where it gets really fascinating. She also hears Victor and Tabitha from season 2 as well in those caves.
Tell me what's going on, we're happy.
Underneath the town.
Tell me what's going on, we're happy.
Underneath the town.
So now we can see how the caves are not just underground passages, they're temporal doorways, and this connects directly to what Victor just revealed about the children's hope creating the faraway trees. If their power could bend space, why not time too? Now think about what this means for every random event we have seen in From.
Don't you recognize me?
What if they're all carefully orchestrated moments in one massive time loop? There's no coincidence. And based on Julie's ability to affect the past, everything that happened might be part of something much bigger than we realize. And going from the episode title, when Ethan says,
"You're at a threshold. It's always scary, but the hero has to be brave."
we can go in together. I love how he's not just being supportive, he's become the kind of brother Julie needs, even as she's becoming something else entirely in the season. Remember how protective Julie was of Ethan, and now he's the one protecting her. And speaking of protection, that moment when Julie enters the ruins alone, when Ethan has to watch his sister collapse, and he has to go get Kenny and Acosta, well, just help in general. And we can see how growing up is not just about getting older, it's also about facing that darkness in the series, even when you cannot follow each other. And based on what happens to Julie in those caves, Ethan is the one that helps her bring her back. Now, all of this already is an intense episode that we need to discuss how the town is not done with its revelations, because let's talk about Victor's journey in this episode going to Sarah's house, because as we know, this shows exactly how Victor's trauma and how deep Victor's trauma goes. Think about Victor's desperation. Just like those children poured their hope into the roots, Victor is giving all his hope into this doll that belonged to Christopher. We just don't see Victor relive his trauma. It's making him search for answers in the most twisted way possible. But here's where it gets really funny. That moment when Sarah tries to make Jasper talk.
"Oh, Victor, do you want to play today?"
Remember how Sarah used to talk with these spirits back in season 1 and season 2? Now she's playing puppet master with a dummy. And Victor's reaction tells us everything. You're not doing it right. You're not good enough. This is so funny and I love it. Because remember, both Victor and Sarah are trapped by something that they cannot control. He's haunted by memories he cannot fully access. Even Sarah, trying her best to help, becomes part of this dark comedy the town is orchestrating. Which brings us to one of the first revelations that we have in this episode, and that is Victor's details about the boy in white, because this is huge. This provides our first information into everything and a lot about From mythology, because in that basement in the church with Tabitha and Victor, where he finally remembers the reality, these children were not just random victims. They were betrayed by the people they trusted, murdered in the dark, and their hope literally created the faraway trees. That's connecting to what we saw in season 2 when they were in the caves. And also think about how this connects back to those pilgrims and drawings Tabitha found in episode 2. We thought they were just creepy historical paintings, but they're showing us the town's origin story all along. The children's hope being given into roots to create that symbol. That's what gives the faraway trees their power. It's fascinating how the boy in white was not trying to make Christopher evil. He was begging him to help save the children. When Christopher refused, when he got angry instead of helping, that is what triggered the massacre. Similar to what happened with Abby. Just like Miranda was chosen to help the children in season 2, Christopher had his chance and failed. And speaking of failures, think about what this reveals about Miranda's death. Victor finally understands why his mother left that night. She was answering the same call Christopher rejected. This connects directly to what Tabitha experiencing now with her childhood dreams.
That's why she left us.
The town is not just picking random people, it's choosing specific ones to try and save these children. All of this is happening in that scene in the church basement. It's not just creepy. Victor is not just remembering, he's reliving the trauma of that night. The boy in white was not the friend he thought he was. I mean, his memories are wild. Victor said he met the boy in white the day where Christopher events happened.
That was the day that I met the boy in white.
Not making any sense.
But now he met him before, so what happened? Did he just forgot? And also think about how this connects to the reincarnation theory. If Tabitha is a reincarnation of Miranda, then Victor's memories are echoes of her past, of their shared memory. They're not just two separate characters, they're two sides of the same coin. Two souls trapped in Fromville's endless cycle. And again, that revelation about those children is not just a tragic backstory. Is the key to understanding the faraway trees. Those trees are not just portals, they're monuments to corrupted hope, to the ultimate betrayal. The children were murdered by those they loved, and their final act of fate.
They poured their hope into the roots to make the symbol, and those roots became the tree.
Is what fuels Fromville twisted magic. We know in From, even hope can be a weapon against whatever entity is controlling this town, and based on what Victor revealed, The faraway trees are not just a way out of the town. They're a reminder of the town's original sin, how the children were betrayed, and how innocence started this whole nightmare. And based on what this children's story is showing us, Tabitha might be their last hope for salvation. This is seen in the hope that is being destroyed conversation with Ellis, Boyd, and Donna, because it shows exactly how the town continues to break that hope. In this episode, every revelation comes at a price.
It's not your fear that feeds the forest boy. It's hope.
And speaking of sacrifice, that scene where Boyd gives Fatima that rotten food, pure nightmare fuel.
No, please take that away.
The town is not just corrupting Fatima, it's also forcing Boyd to become the opposite he once stood for. He's gone from the town's protector to someone who might be without knowing whatever horror is unfolding. That conversation with Ellis, think about Fatima's devastating confession. Whatever's inside me is still there. What if it happens again? She knows something's taking control. Remember back in episode 2 when she started craving that rotten food?
Yummy.
Now we're seeing the next stage of whatever the town is turning her into. I mean, we have seen it throughout the series, but now it's different, right? So because of Fatima's action, we have this whole investigation, and here's where it gets interesting. Boyd's trying to keep an even bigger secret, even acting surprised when he sees Tilly. Even when Donna tells him that this is something people are gonna have to blame someone for.
And if we don't figure out who, then it's gonna be Sarah, whether she did it or not.
No, you're not good enough. You're not.
She's telling him that the community that they have built is about to shatter. Episode 8 really helps us connecting how this is gonna set up the next 2 episodes, episode 9 and 10.
Because they don't believe in you anymore.
Not in this season maybe, but in the next one for sure. This connects to the conversation again with Ellis, Boyd, and Donna because it shows exactly how the town continue to break the strongest alliance. Remember when Boyd and Donna used to make every decision together and talking about everything? Now think about the weight of Donna's words. They don't believe you anymore. This is not just about Fatima or Tilly's dead. It's about how quickly everything Boyd's built is broken. Just like what happened with Abby, just like with Sarah, Boyd's desperate need to protect people is actually isolating him from everyone who once supported him. So I imagine this is the reason that we got Acosta. She's gonna be the new sheriff and the new one providing the law. But here's where it gets really heartbreaking. That moment when Ellis says, "I'll stay in a tent." Now he's willing to let his own son live in the woods to protect Fatima. The town is not just destroying Boyd's authority, it's forcing him to make the impossible choices that go against everything he once stood for. And speaking of impossible choices, Donna delivers that final blow.
To be okay, and God knows I want it to be okay too.
She's not just rejecting Boyd's plan, she's telling him that he already knows deep down that there's no protecting anyone from what's coming. Other small scenes in that brutal conversation between Jim and Henry at the bar, because it shows something deeper than just 2 guys drinking. Well, only Henry, but when Henry tells him maybe sometimes when you're with your wife,
When you're with your wife, you should shut the f and listen.
he's not being harsh. He's showing Jim a mirror of his past self. He thought he was protecting his family, but like Henry says, Henry's not just giving him advice, he's warning Jim about making the same mistakes that he made with Miranda. I mean, go back to that conversation between Jim and Tabitha in the kitchen, because this is showing exactly how the town plays with them. Remember when Jim picked up the phone and heard Thomas' voice? The town is not just haunting them, it's weaponizing this grief. Think about what Jim tells Tabitha. The voice on the other end said his name was Thomas, just like the town used the voices to Sarah to manipulate them.
Dad? It's Thomas.
This is not just random cruelty, it's a calculated pain using their weakest point. Hey, even with Elgen, when he says something here knows things about us, which buttons to push, he's not just talking about the phone call. Watch how this connects to all episodes, like when he discovered Tabitha dream about this place as a child. He's been planning this psychological pain, and also in the town for decades. Because remember, Jim went into the bar to talk with Jade about taking his wife into the woods. So while James is at the bar getting this reality check, Jade research is actually getting somewhere maybe. That fight between them is not just about ego, it's about 2 different approach to survival. Jim wants to protect by controlling, while Jade is willing to risk it. And speaking of answers, That moment when Jim confessed about almost drinking after his daughter's birth, it shows why he's so terrified of losing control. It's forcing him to face his deepest fears while becoming his father. Because in the series, personal demons are just as dangerous as the monsters in the woods. Now let's talk about this hilarious twist in the reincarnation theory, because if Davida's Miranda reincarnated be going from all the different proof that the show provides, then who's Henry talking to? Well, Jim. That's right, Miranda's lover, the new one, is basically telling this reincarnated love's new husband. Henry was immediately connected with Davida in a way and felt this unexplainable need to help her. Now we know why, just like Miranda was chosen to save the children. Just like Davida having those same visions, Henry's cosmic connection to her is not random. It's the show being so funny brings us to this scene because it looks so different now, doesn't it? When Henry tells Jim,
All I see is me standing there 40 years ago.
he has no idea how right he is. He made the same mistakes with Miranda that Jim's making with Davida, but it's the same reincarnated soul. It's just so funny. Take us to our third revelation in this episode, and let's talk about what's happening with Fatima and Elgin, because this goes way deeper than just hiding a killer. When Elgin finds Fatima in that shed, when he talks about keeping the baby safe, he's not trying to help, he's fulfilling whatever plan that lady in the kimono has set in motion. And now we see how all of it is connected. Because remember, Fatima sees the lady in the kimono, Elgin is doing all of this and is gonna take her to that root cellar. I mean, think about the previous episode when he first saw Elgin discover that root cellar. He said to her, this is where it happens. Now we know what he meant. The town's been positioning him this whole time, using those creepy camera movements and moments, and the lady in the kimono to guide him towards this moment with Fatima. But here's where it gets really disturbing, right? When Boyd and Ellis think about they're protecting Fatima, they're actually setting her up for whatever Elgin has planned. Think about it, Tilly had to die for Boyd to take Fatima to this location, so Fatima was going to be alone. So convenient. She's not just haunting Elgin, she was moving him for this role in Fatima's transformation, or whatever is going inside her. Now Elgin, this guy's gone from creepy to downright disturbing. That scene where he finds Fatima in the shed, he's not offering help, he's offering a twisted kind of salvation. He's not just trying to help Fatima, he's trying to fulfill some grand purpose orchestrated by the lady in the kimono. And Elgin's not Fatima's savior. He's leading her down a path of darkness disguised as hope. Remember, she thought Ellis was in that root cellar, so he tricked Fatima. And speaking of Fatima, that root cellar scene, a pure nightmare fuel, the beginning of a sacred space. Now the way Elgin brings Fatima into that hidden room, it's not about protection, it's about control. He's not hiding her from the town, he's isolating her. I think he's convinced that Fatima's baby, whatever's inside her, is connected to the lady in the kimono and needs his help to survive. I mean, taking his own blood is like a twisted form of communion. A blood sacrifice to bring to this thing, baby or monster or whatever it is. Even the conversation that he has with Randall, it's not just about a casual chat, seeing the medical supplies available for him to take that blood. And let's not forget that line from Randall.
There is nothing here that wants to help us.
Is a direct contradiction to what Elgin believes he's doing. He's helping Fatima, helping the town. And when Elgin finds Fatima in that shed, he talks about keeping the baby safe. And this provides details about Fatima's situation when he says there's a baby, it's not just yours, while leading her to that root cellar. While being in that root cellar, the implications are pure nightmare fuel. The lady in the kimono is the mother. It may not be exactly a kekai. I mean, think about the patterns here. The lady in the kimono appears to Elgin similar to Sarah hearing voices. He takes blood from the clinic. Then she says the baby wants you to stay. The baby Elgin keeps talking about. This connects back to Victor's revelations about those children who were murdered. What if Fatima's pregnancy is not about creating a new life at all? What if the town is using her body to bring back something that was lost? Remember how those children gave their hope into the roots? Maybe the town is using Fatima to restore one of those lost souls. He says this is where it happens. The town is not just making us relive past tragedies, it's creating new ones. Every revelation in this episode comes with a price. Based on episode 9 synopsis about someone going missing, whatever's growing inside Fatima, whether it's the lady in the kimono's baby or something even darker, is about to show us exactly why these revelations mean. And based on what's coming on episode 9, Elgen's help the ghost baby planet is about to backfire in the worst possible way. Now that's the whole episode. Episode 8, so many good moments. It's way better than episode 7. Episode 7 was so bad. But let's talk about what's coming in episode 9, Revelation chapter 1, because everything that we just learned in episode 8 is about to explode. Hopefully these revelations are going to answer the questions that we have. And the synopsis is the following. Tensions are at an all-time high as the town residents learn that one of their own has gone missing. Episode 9 synopsis perfectly set up this moment of unity, even if it comes from tragedy. These promo images, well, one image, showing everyone gathering around Boyd, is not about confrontation, coming together to find one of their own. Now we can imagine that episode, we're gonna get the discovery, finding Fatima, but also maybe some answers about what's going on with Tabitha and so on. So now that's the video for today. What are your thoughts on episode 8? I'm really grateful for all the support you've been giving the channel. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye everyone.